What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here. Today, a little discussion around live streaming platform. And what I want to specifically hone in on is single sales on live streaming platforms and the comps that they generate that in a lot of instances just kind of go off into the ether. Now, I am no live streaming expert. I don't participate. I've never bought anything from a live stream. I have sat down and watched them on occasion. I've watched some eBay Lives. I've watched some whatnot just very recently. Very painful experience on some of these, listening to these people sell singles at auction. And that's specifically what I'm looking at here is the single side of things. So any experience that you all have, feel free to drop it in the comments down below as we kind of get into this video. The one thing that stands out is, and I don't know what the appropriate percentage is to put on it, but on a macro level, generally speaking, it seems like things sell for more in a live stream than they do on a normal buy it now or eBay auction or at some other auction type platform, like a normal style auction where it's running for, a day, 3 days, 5 days, 7 days. I think the other thing to keep in mind here is we are mostly talking about lower end stuff typically. Usually what I see these people selling are sub $100, $150 per card, sometimes $5, $10 cards, sometimes even less than that on these platforms. But like I said, I don't know what the right percentage to put on it. The stuff that I observed, most things seem to sell for 10 to 30% over what stuff normally goes for. Now, I am specifically talking about larger sellers. I am not talking about, no offense to anybody, but sellers that might have 10 or 15 people in their room in a night. I'm talking about your big timers, your ComC, your Card Collector 2, your Probstein, Burbank sells on eBay Live. That's the type of people I'm talking. People that have a following where you are getting a lot of people in the room. So the first thing that I kind of want to talk about is the why. Why does this stuff sell for more on a platform like this versus a traditional auction style format or even best offer buy it now? And I think really what it comes down to is two things. FOMO being the biggest, and then I don't even have time to check comps because this is moving so fast. On a normal eBay auction, card goes up for sale, and maybe it's not something that transacts super often. So it's not like a Lucas Silver where you just kind of know generally what that goes for. You got some time. Hey, cool, I'm interested in this cool looking Luca card. Let me go look to see what the last 5 have sold for. Okay, cool. I have a general idea what this should go for. This is about what I'm willing to spend on it. I'm going to go ahead and set my bid, or I have the number in the back of my head. Cool, we're good here. That's how things normally work. On the live selling platforms, it is fast paced. You barely have time to even know what you're bidding on, let alone go check comps on it. Some of this stuff lasts 15, 30 seconds, and that's it, depending on how many people are bidding on it. So you don't have a whole lot of time to go price check. Maybe you have time to look at 1 or 2 sold listings if you're lucky. But people are just firing away at, what they feel is the right number. And I think the biggest thing is they get caught up in the FOMO of it. Oh, no. Are you kidding me? Sports Guy 1297, you're not outbidding me on this 15th year LeBron purple disco swirly ball. I'm beating you on this. You got no shot, buddy. I don't care how high we go. It's like auction prices in a fantasy football league. So you get, I think, a lot of that going back and forth. I mean, I've gotten like that on a normal eBay auction. I can only imagine it when you're in the heat of the moment on these live streams. So I think that's what's driving a lot of it. The net result leads to higher sales. I mean, I know people that specifically buy large quantities of inventory. We've talked about this before, about the ecosystem of the hobby and how people buy large quantities of inventory to then put in the repacks. Another thing that people do is they buy large quantities of inventory to sell on whatnot. I mean, that's what, look at Ryan Card Collector 2. He goes out to the show. He spends $20,000 or whatever at the Dallas card show. And then he takes a lot of that stuff back. It gets sorted to different places, but a lot of that stuff probably ends up on his Whatnot live streams. And then he sells it on there. There is another small factor to put in here. And I think there is a little bit of this. I don't know how much it accounts for. It's a little bit of an X factor. Some people, and this is going to sound like a shock to you because a lot of you just can't stand hashtag influencers or content creators or whatever. I think a lot of people are willing to pay a couple bucks extra because they want to support the person that's selling it to them. I do really think some of that is baked into this as well. I really want to buy a card from Ryan at Card Collector 2. I've watched 300 hours of his content in the last year. I'm going to spend an extra $5 on whatever this slab is, or insert whatever seller you want here. I like whatever it is that they're doing. I enjoy the entertainment value that they give me, and I'm going to reward them with a couple extra bucks over comp on this. And you know what? I am perfectly okay paying $10 for a $7 card because I want to reward the creator. I do think there is a little bit of that goes on. But mainly, I think it's FOMO and lack of knowledge of people just not being able to rely on those comps. Now, this is where it gets interesting. What does that say? A lot of the stuff that sells on Whatnot, it's kind of like the Wild West. Those sales happen and they just poof, go off into the ether, never to be heard or seen from again. But those are technically comps that happen. We just don't have a record of it. It doesn't show up on a 130-point search. It doesn't show up on alt. It doesn't show up in Market Movers, Card Ladder, whatever. But someone was willing to pay $15 for that $10 card, $50 for that $35 card, or what was air quotes a $35 card. But there's no record of that, no history of it. It's just gone. Now, eBay Live, and I've been poking around this. I've had some examples sent to me. I need to verify this for myself just to make sure that I have this correct. It appears that eBay Live sales are showing up in Terapeak. Now, I have not locked that down yet. But if that is the case, that means anything sold on eBay Live will end up in Terapeak, which means it will show up on 130 point. So you are going to see this stuff come across. Now, some people will make the argument that the live streaming sales should be outliers. It's a live streaming environment. It's kind of an entirely different thing. And, I can understand the case for that to a degree. My side of it, my thought is it should be included. Someone was willing to pay that price for that card. I don't know that the platform should matter. I never got caught up, and I see this a lot in Facebook groups and stuff of, I don't use auctions for comps. I only use best offer, buy it now. You know what? I bet when the market was at its peak and auctions were selling higher than buy it nows, your statement was, well, I only use auctions. That's a truer sense of what the card's really selling for. Listen, whether it sells at auction, best offer, buy it now, bin, it really doesn't make a difference, in my opinion. As long as the auction wasn't ending Friday morning at 3 a.m. East Coast time, let's be real here. The price that it sold for is probably the auction price, especially in this market. The auction price is probably actually a more realistic value of what the card is actually worth. People just want to take that statement and twist it depending on which one fits their narrative better. Trust me, if you interact with a dealer at a show and they look up a comp on a card and the last 3 auction prices are higher than the best offer, buy it nows, you could guarantee they're going to say, yep, I only use auction prices. Those are the most accurate. And then if you ask them about another card that sold higher at best offer, buy it now versus the auction price, the auctions were super low, I guarantee you the next person that walks up to that table to ask about that card, they're going to be like, oh, yeah. I throw out auction data because, that's not a true representation of what someone's willing to pay for the card. I only use the bins. They're going to flip that narrative depending on whatever gets them the most money. Let's be honest here. That being said, these live streaming sales, should those be included into the narrative? I think that's really the key part here. Yes, is there weird circumstances the way the card is sold? It's a 30-second auction. There's FOMO driving it. Maybe they wanted to support the creator. There's these other little X factors involved that may or may not get that card to sell for a higher price. But regardless, someone out there was willing to spend that price on that card. Now, in all honesty, when you're talking about comps and buying and selling a card, if it's something that transacts on a semi-regular basis, you should probably average together the last couple, regardless of the selling format. Look at the last, if 3 versions of that card sold in the last week, as long as nothing's crazy happened in the last week, look at the 3 sales, figure out a number that makes sense somewhere around those 3 numbers, depending on how far apart they are. But in all reality, that's how it should work. That's typically how I price my stuff. Now, if it's something that doesn't sell very often, there's other ways you can kind of get to that math, but generally speaking, you shouldn't be picking out the outliers on the high or the low. Look at everything, figure out a number that makes sense between all the sales that are out there. But that goes back to my original point. We have this live streaming data now. A lot of it is not getting captured, but it appears maybe the eBay live stuff might be. And if that's the case, if you start seeing random little ups, down spikes on some stuff, that might be the reason why. I just think it's an interesting talking point and discussion to have around, should this live selling data, assuming the companies that kind of aggregate the sales data for us, pick whatever one that you like to use, insert here, assuming they can capture this data, should it be captured? Should it be used? Do you consider live streaming sales legit sales with those extra X factors in there? Or are you throwing those out? Or does it go back to the dealer is going to pick whatever one makes his card look better? Oh, I only use eBay live comps because that's a true value of what that card would go for. Oh, I only use buy it nows because that's the true value of what that would go for. Throw out those low auctions even though the market's in the tank. So you could present that from both sides. So as always, curious for your thoughts and comments down below. I just thought this was kind of an interesting topic to discuss with the amount of cards that are moved on live streaming. There are a ton of sales out there. How many cards get sold on Whatnot that just float away? Never captured. No one knows. Just poof, off into the ether. Maybe that'll change with eBay Live. We'll see. We'll do a little bit of testing and I'll find out. That's all I got for you, boys and girls. Catch you on the next one. Peace.